Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Shekelim Daf Yud Ches. We're on the bottom of Yud Zayin Yud Beis. And perhaps let's back up a bit to 14 lines from the bottom of the Amid. To the beginning of the Sugya we discussed yesterday, we began to discuss the concept of Shlomo HaMelech adding Shulchanos to the Shulchan of Moshe. He added another 10 Shulchanos into the Beis HaMikdash. He added another 10 menorahs, as we can learn today, in addition to Moshe Rabbeinu's menorah, to enhance the appearance. Perhaps it's related to what the Ramban says, that the menorah was a conduit for Chachma. So through the menorah, Hashem was mashpia Chachma Torah to Klal Yisrael. So more menorahs, the more Chachma, the more Torah. The Shulchan, the Ramban says, was a conduit for Parnasa to Klal Yisrael. That's why it had the bread placed on it. So more Shulchanos, more Parnasa, yesh Kemach, yesh Torah. So he added an additional 10 Shulchanos. Says the Gemara 14 lines from the bottom. Asara Shulchanos asa Shlomo. Shlomo added 10 tables to the table of Moshe Rabbeinu for a total of 11. He placed them in the Hechel. So 5 on the right and 5 on the left. Now, what does that mean, right and left? We assume it means as you're going into the Hechel, you have 5 on the right, 5 on the left, but that can't be. In Tamer, if you'll suggest 5 on Darim, 5 on Safin, it doesn't work. We know that Shulchan is meant to be strictly on Safin, in the north side of the Eichel Shenemar. So what then does the pasuk mean? Apparently they were all situated in Safin side of the Eichel. Rather, Ela Chamisha Mimin Shulchan Shel Moshe, v'Chamisha Mismailai. 5 on the right of Moshe Rabbeinu's Shulchan, and 5 on his left. So let's say we have the Heichel here. You just lean it upward a bit. We have the Heichel. You enter over here, Mizrach. You go through till Ma'ariv, and past that was the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Heichel was actually 40 amas long, 20 wide. And past the Heichel you had the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which was 20 amos wide, 20 amos. Now we have Mizrach on the bottom, Ma'ariv on top, and we have Tzafon and Darim. The Shulchan had to be on the Tzafon side. So we draw an imaginary line running through the Heichel. One side is Tzafon, one side is Darim. The Shulchan of Moshe and all the Shulchanos of Shlomo had to be situated on the Tzafon side. So you cannot say when the pasuk speaks about 5 on the right and 5 on the left, it's referring to the entranceway. As you enter the Heichel coming from Mizrach, from east, you'll have 5 on your right, 5 on your left, because it's going to be 5 with Tzafon and 5 with Darim, which is unacceptable. Apparently everything was in Tzafon. When we speak about 5 on the right, 5 on the left, we mean 5 on the right of Moshe Rabbeinu's Shulchan and 5 on his left. Says the Gemara, Afal Bikain, although we had so many tables, Lo Yoyeh Mesader El B'Shel Moshe Levad. The actual placement of Lechem HaPanim only happened on Moshe Rabbeinu's table, Shnemar, as Ha Shulchan, the Shulchan, Asher Olav Lechem HaPanim, which indicates that only one Moshe Rabbeinu's contained Lechem HaPanim. Rabbi Daimer, Al Kulan Ani Masadar. He can pick his choice. He can use any one of the 11 tables, Shnemar, as HaShulchanos Ve'aleihem Lechem HaPanim, which indicates Lechem HaPanim can be placed throughout all the 11 tables. So what does the Tanakama do with this pasuk, which sounds like they were all suitable for Lechem HaPanim? But the Farshim explain, it's a reference to those tables we discussed yesterday, which were on the entranceway to the Heichel. On one they would place the Lechem HaPanim on the way in, and on Friday they would leave it there until Shabbos, and on the other one on the way out, which was the gold one. So those were the tables referenced in this pasuk, the Shulchanos, which had Lechem HaPanim, but of course, on a regular basis, it was only the Shulchan Shel Moshe which contained Lechem HaPanim. Now, what is this machlekes dependent on? Machlekes whether only Moshe's were used or the other ones were used as well. Tani we learned in a Braisa, but machlekes, in what direction those Shulchanos were placed. We know Shulchan was an amma long. Mizrach Umarav Hoyinasunin. David Rabbi says, the length of those tables, meaning the shulchanos were situated lengthwise along the length of the heichal, going along with the shape of the structure. That's Rabbi Shita. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Sofin V'darim Hoyinasunin. The length of the shulchanos were placed going Sofin to Darim, meaning along the width of the heichal. So once again, if we have the heichal here, we have Mizrach coming into the heichal, Ma'ariv is on the back, we have Tzafin to the right, Darim to the left. All the shulchanos needed to be on the Tzafin side. I'm going to learn soon in the Gemara. They were placed beyond the halfway point, meaning on the inner half of the heichal. The heichal is 40 amas long, 20 amas into the heichal is the halfway mark, and everything, the shulchan and the menorah, or the shulchan nois and menorahs, were all placed within that inner half. So basically it leaves you a quarter, a square of a quarter, not a square, it's a rectangle, a quarter, the right back quarter of the heichal housed all the shulchanos, right? It had to be in the inner half, and it had to be on the tzafin side. So that's pashut. Everything was in this corner here. The question remains, how did they position the tables? We had 2 rows. We just explained that they had 10 shulchanos, 5 on the right of Moshe, 5 on the left. So suppose Moshe Rabbeinu was here. You had 2 rows of 5 each on either side of Moshe Rabbeinu's table. The question is, shall we say Mizrach Umarav Hoyinasunin? That's Rabbi Shita. So they were placed lengthwise along the length of the heichal, Mizrach Umarav. So you had them situated lengthwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the other side of Moshe Rabbeinu's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They were facing east to west. In which case they all fit neatly into this corner, and that explains that sheet that we mentioned earlier, Rabbi Yehuda, that all of them potentially could have contained Lechem Panim because they were all neatly situated in this corner, which was the appropriate location for placement of the Shulchan Lechem Panim. So this shita, which maintains Mizrach Umarav Hoyinasunin, that the Shulchanos were placed lengthwise along the length of the heichal, so they followed with the contour of the structure. So everything was right here in this corner, and was right for Lechem Panim. Whereas according to Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, Sofrim V'darim Hoyinasunin, the length of the Shulchanos were actually facing east to west. We were actually facing north-south. So you had 2 rows of 5 tables each. In between you had Moshe Rabbeinu. So you had 5 on the right of Moshe, 5 on the left. But instead of being positioned along the length of the heichal, east-west, they were north-south. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going from north to south. Now, since each shulchan was how long? 2 amos. And, as we mentioned, we have an imaginary line running through the middle of the heichal, the north-south border, right, the divider between north and south. And the heichal was merely 20 wide. So we have only 10 amis to fit everything in. Now, when we have 5 tables, each one 2 amis long, and they're lined up lengthwise, it's inevitable it's going to spill over a bit into the darim, because each one is exactly 2, and you have them lined up. You have a little space, a drop of space between the tables, as Rashi Menachos explains. So inevitably you're going to have to spill over a bit into the other side, in which case the table spilling over, it's actually the first of each row, you have 2 in total, spilling a bit over and not roi for Lechem Panim. So that's an indicator that really all those tables were just ornamental. They're just there to serve as auxiliary tables, accessory tables for the actual main shulchan of Moshe Rabbeinu. In which case, we say, apparently, those shulchanos were not meant to contain Lechem Panim, which could only be in Tzafin. And that explains the other shita, Tanakama, and the former Brisa, who maintains that only Moshe Rabbeinu's shulchan contained Lechem Panim. So this is the way the Mepharshim explain these 2 Brisas, how they're compatible with each other, and they're in line with each other. Again, the question of where to place Lechem Panim is dependent and connected with this Brisa, which deals with the question of how they were situated, how they were positioned. If it was Mizrach and Ma'ariv, then all the tables were contained within that area and can all potentially contain Lechem Apana. But if it was situated Safim Darim, okay, in which case we had an inevitable spillover into Darim, that shows us that the tables were not meant to contain Lechem Apana. As the Gemara explains now, Man Damar Mizrach and Ma'ariv, the Shita that maintains that the Shulchan is of Shleimah were positioned their length along the length of the Heichal, and they'd all fit into that corner Nicha. We understand Kulan, Ru'uin, L'Sheres. They're all right to contain, to serve, to house the Lechem Apana. Man Damar Tzafim B'Darim, but according to the other Shita that they were situated the other way, Nim to Shulchan B'Darim, Menorah B'Tzafin, in which case it's inevitable that some Shulchanis will be over in Darim. And same thing regarding the Menorah, we're going to see soon there were 10 Menorahs. If they were lined up the other way, Mizrach Tzafim B'Darim, it turns out that some Menorahs were a bit over on Darim side, Tzafin side, and not Roy for kindling. Okay, continues the Gemara. Vatani, we looked in a brayso, Shulchan hayinosan mechatzi habayis lefnim. Where was the Shulchan position? Beyond the halfway point of the Heichal, as we just explained. Moshach ben hakoisel bit amasol mechza klapi hatzafim. So it was beyond the halfway point of the Heichal. So we have the Heichal, which is 40 amas long. You go into the halfway point. Beyond that, the Shulchan will be positioned. And of course, it's on the Tzafin side. And it was Beis Amos Mechzo Klapi Tzafin, 2.5 amas removed from that Tzafin wall. Menorah connected with Darim. Opposite that, in Darim, you had the Menorah. What about the Mizbech Hazav, which was also there? Hayonasim be'emtza bayis. It was also situated at the halfway point of the Heichal. Cholok is a bayis mechetzi lefnim. So you split the Heichal with an imaginary line running through the halfway point. Lefnim, and beyond that was the Mizbeach, but it wasn't exactly between the Shulchan and the Menorah. Moshach Klima Klapi Chutz was a bit pulled out, so it was sort of a rectangle. You had the Shulchan B'Tzafin, opposite the Menorah B'Darim, and a bit pulled out was the Mizbeach Hazav, but of course, everything was in the inner half of the Heichal. V'chulain hayanasun mishlish habayis lefnim. Everything was within the third. Now, when we speak about a third, we are adding the Kodesh HaKadoshim to the equation as well. So the Heichal was 40 amas long. Add 20 amas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim for a total of 60. So when we speak about the Menorah, the Shulchan, and the Mizbech Hazav being situated within, beyond halfway of the Heichal, the inner half of the Heichal, it's actually a third of the entire structure. Right? The entire structure was 60 amas. So 20 amas into the Heichal was really only a third of the entire structure. Beyond a third, the third point of the entire structure. As the Menorahs also Shlomo Melech built an additional 10 Menorahs. Shnemar Vayasas Menorahs Hazav Eser K'mishpatai V'yita Beichel Hashem V'yita Beichel Hey Mimin V'hei Mismoil. 5 on the right, 5 on the left, and again the same discussion. What do you mean right and left? In Teimar Chomesh B'Tzafin V'Chomesh B'Dorim. That it was 5 on the right side of the entrance to the Heichal, 5 on the left. So 5 in Tzafin, 5 in Dorim. That's unacceptable. Menorah was only kosher in Dorim. Shnemar. The Menorah was opposite the Shulchan and was placed on Darim. So everything must have been B'Darim. What does the pasuk mean? 5 on the right, 5 on the left. All were placed B'Darim. When we say right and left, we mean in reference to Moshe Rabbeinu's Menorah. 5 on his right, 5 on his left, but of course they were all in Darim. Although we had 11 menorahs, the Kohen would only kindle Moshe Rabbeinu's menorah. Shnemar b'noras hazav, the one and only menorah. V'neiros levar be'erev be'erev. So every evening they would light the menorah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. It's actually the same shit as before. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Here is spelled Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Omer, he maintains al kulan hayamavir. He had a choice. Pick your choice. Whichever one he chose, he could have used to kindle shenema v'esamanoi rois v'neiris heihem leva'aram k'mishpat v'nei dvir zav sagar. So he had a choice to kindle any one of those menoi rois. Continues the pasuk. Va'perach v'neirois v'melkachaim zav hu michlois zav. The pasuk describes the perach, the ornament, the menorahs, the neiros, the melkachaim, the tools, everything was zav, michlois zav. What does michlois zav mean? Hein kilu zahave shalom Moshe. They were so expensive. He made so many menorahs. Actually, there's a girsa that takes out the word Moshe and puts in Shlomo, which seems to be more plausible, because it was Shlomo who actually built all those menorahs, and they were machala. They depleted his entire gold supply. Hein kilu zahave shel Shlomo. Tani Rabbi Yehuda b'shem Asi. Haya Shlomo noitel 11 kikar zav. This is how he made his 10 menorahs. He would take 1,000 kikar, as a weight measurement of zav, a huge amount of gold. U'machnisam l'kur. He would put them into the smelter, into the furnace, to purify them. U'moitzion, and take them out. Achu mamidan al echad, until he had only a 1 kikar supply of gold. So he reheated it, remelted it, repurified it. From 1,000, he had only 1 kikar of highly concentrated pure gold. L'kayim hashenemar, to fulfill the pasuk, kikar zav tar asa isa, was absolutely pure in its purest form. Tani Rabbi Yossi, Bei Rabbi Yehuda, Masa. There was once a story of a menorah zav shasa Moshe b'midbar, regarding the menorah of zav, which Moshe Rabbeinu built in the midbar. Voisi yisero dinar zav was meant to be a kikar zav, an exact amount, and it weighed a bit more. A dinar zav beyond was overweight. Now the Kashmir Chavrus, he says, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu's menorah was formed through a nace, right? We know that Moshe Rabbeinu threw the gold into the fire and out came a menorah. So what does the Gemara mean? It was overweight. So actually, when we look at the Gemara Menachos, it's a similar Gemara, and the Gemara there has a little bit of a different girsa, and it's referring to the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. So perhaps a later menorah during the days of the Chashmonaim, when they refashioned the menorah, it turned out to be a bit overweight, an extra dinar beyond the allowed weight. So what did they do? They put it into the smelter 80 times over, and they couldn't get it to go down. It wouldn't lose any of its weight. And the kasha is, well, we just learned that Shlomo Melech had no problem reducing his gold supply. He put in 1,000, and he melted it down and concentrated it to 1. And here they put it in 80 times, and it wouldn't lose anything. V'yos, it's actually correct. It makes sense. You know why? Before it was actually purified. Have a chaser sagin. Yeah, it would lose a lot by the purification process. So that was Shlomo Melech, who started off with a rough, impure gold supply. Min dukim al birre, but once it achieved its proper purity, such as in the case of Beis Hamikdash here, lo chasar klum, no longer could be missing anything. Meaning you melted and melted and melted, and nothing will be detracted from the amount, despite the fact that it was melted down. So we discussed the 10 shulchanos that Shlomo added, 10 menorahs. They were placed alongside Moshe Rabbeinu's. Which one would they use? Or machlokes? And we discussed the purity of the gold used, and how the gold supply of Shlomo Melech was depleted. Shlosh Asa Shofar, says the Mishnah, with 13 shofar-shaped containers, pushkas, hoyev hamikdash. Why dafka this shape? We learned earlier, mipnei ramoin, to prevent ramoin, deceivers, from coming and taking out some money. They'll pretend that they're putting their hand in to donate, and they're going to take out some coins. So that's why it was narrow on top, wide on bottom. It was only a one-way flow of money. So we had 13. What was the point of having 13? Each one had a tag, a label, as follows. Because of alei, taklan chadet, and the Mishnah will go through all of them. One was for the taklan chadet, the fresh coins, machzah shekels donated this year. The next one was the taklan tikkun, for last year's coins. The next one had the word kidin on it, birds, because different type of birds. Eitzim was the next one, levina was the next one, zav l'kaperes was the next one. So that accounted for 7. Shishal and Nadava, the final 6 were designated for Nadava. Generally, that means money directed for Keita Mizbeach. They would take the money, buy oilos for the Mizbeach. The Mishnah will now go over all 13. The first one was called Taklin Chadet, the new, fresh Machzas HaShekels. Shabachol Shana V'Shana. Every year, they would insert the Machzas HaShekel into that container, and the trusty Gizbar would empty it out, put it in the Lishka, and then eventually they would do Trumas HaLishka, as we learned in this Masechta. V'Atikin. The second container was called Taklin Atikin. What was that for? The old coins. Mishalei Hevi Ashtakat. One missed last year's Machzas Shekel. Shekel Shana Boy brings next year. So you have to make up for it. But it did not have the same Kedusha and designation as the fresh coins. They were called Shiyorei HaLishka and directed for municipal expenses. Kinan, that was the third pushka, called Kinan Hein Teuren. Meant to purchase from it a Teuren birds, a certain species. And that's the point of that container. Anybody want to donate Teuren, put some money in there, and it was directed for that purpose. The Goyzli Oila, that was the next container. Hey Bnei Yaina, used to purchase a different species of birds, the Bnei Yaina birds. Kulan Oila, the Rabbi Yehuda maintains, both these containers were for Nadavis. A person committed to bringing Oila bird, that was the place he would put his money into, and of course there was no chatos involved whatsoever. Everything was donated, everything was for an oil. The Chachamim, they have a different approach. The container that had the Kinan label on it was Kinan Echad Chatas Vechad Oila. That was for the person who needed a pair of karbonis for Tumah. Suppose a Zava needed to bring karbonis, so she simply brought some money. This was a service provided by Beis HaMikdash. You put some coins in there, and we knew from this Kinan container we take half the coins for the oila and half for the chatos. Goizle oila, the next container which was labeled Goizle oila, kulan oilos, all the content was used for oilos, nothing for chatos. So according to Chachamim, we had one container designated for the mix of chatos for oila, whoever needed that. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we didn't want to get involved in buying chatos. That can get complicated, as the Gemara will describe. And therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, both of these containers, Kinan and Goizle oila, were directed for oila use. Apparently, according to Chachamim, the donor who would put in money for his birds, he had in mind anything, whether it was this type of bird, that type of bird. There was no differentiation between the Teuren and the Goizle Oila. You would take anything in that container and purchase oilates, whether it was this type of bird, that type of bird. It was all okay. Continues the Mishnah. We had a container with a label Eitzim. What was that for? Ha'omer harei alai eitzim. If one commits, I'm going to supply firewood for the Beis HaMikdash, he must put some money in there. Le'yifchas mishnei gzirim. Enough, which at a minimum can purchase 2 gzirim, 2 blocks of wood. That's the minimum hakravas eitzim. Levoina, he commits to a levoina donation. Le'yifchas mikaimitz. He must insert enough to purchase with it a fistful of fragrance, of a levina, of some sort of besamah. Zahav, that's the next container. For zahav, leifchas med dinar zahav. You must put in, at a minimum, the equivalent of a dinar zahav. Shishal and nadava. We have another 6 containers, which were designated l'nadava. What's that? Nadava mayu oisim, but what would they do with the content of those containers? Loichem ba'oilos, they purchase oilos, habarsa l'shem, flesh, brought on the mizbeach, burnt as an oila, v'oiros l'kahanim, the hides given to the kahanim. Zeh midrash dorash Yehuda Kohen Gadol. Yehuda Kohen Gadol offered the following drasha as a source that we have the leftover of the chatas and the asham, etc., directed to purchase oilos for case of mizbeach, in which case the basar goes lashem and the oiros lekahan. Asham hu asham lashem. This fellow did an avera, brings the asham to Hashem. This is an asham because he did a asham, he did a chet Hashem. That's the pashat pshat in the pasuk. But the drasha goes as follows. Really, it seems like it's a contradiction. It's asham who eats a carbon asham? Kohanim eat it. And then we say asham lashem. It's for Hashem, not for the kohanim. So we have a contradictory pasuk here. And the drasha is as follows. No, reconcile the difference like this. They're both true. We're not speaking about the original carbon asham. Of course, that is eaten by kohanim. Rather, we're speaking, in the drasha at least, we're referring to the leftover money. Suppose a person designated $100 to buy his chatos, buy his asham, and he has some leftover money. That's moisha, that goes on a dava. Any money which comes from chatas and asham, it's leftover chatas and asham money. What do you do with that money? You purchase oilos. Oilos ketel mizbeach, habashal Hashem. For oilos the kehanim, the flesh goes in the mizbeach, and he hides to the kehanim. Nimtzu, shneik suven kayamin. In that case, both parts of the pasuk work out. Asham Lashem, right? That's the flesh on the mizbeach. Asham lakayin, the oir to the kayin. V'omer, we have another pasuk which provides the same halacha. Kesav Asham, v'kesav chatzos, lo yuva beis Hashem, lo kehanim you. Your chatzos and asham money don't bring to Hashem, bring it to the kehanim. What does that mean? Chatzos and asham goes to the Beis Hamikdash. The answer is the pasuk is referring to the leftover monies of chatzos and asham. Use it for something which is serving both the mizbeach and also the kehanim. You in reference to the oiros, the hides of these karbanos, oiros of kayet hamizbeach. Tanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda, lo yoyeh shofar shel kinam b'Yerushalayim. Getting back to the bird containers, the pushkas, where you would insert your money for the purpose of purchasing birds. Says Rabbi Yehuda, no, there were no shofars servicing the kinim, the chatas and oila pair. Why? We're concerned about mix-ups. Why? Maybe one of the donors, one of the women donors, who needed a chatas and oila, will pass away on that day. And we know that a chatas shemeisa ba'alaz lemisa azla, because a chatas is so connected, intricately connected to the owner. It's meant to do a kapara for him. It's unlike a oila and a shlama which can be brought even la'chamisa. But a chatas is connected, very much related and linked to the owner. If the owner dies, the chatas is puzzle. Likewise, the money cannot be used any longer. So we're concerned, perhaps one of the donors of this chatas and oil pair of birds will pass away on that day. And it'll turn out that we have some puzzle money in there. We have a big container, lots of coins, and some coins belong to an Isha who passed away today. You don't know where that money is. You don't know which one's puzzle. You're getting yourself into trouble by allowing for that. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda maintains, we had no arrangement for chatas birds. Rather, both containers were for donations for oilis. Says the Gemara, that poses a concern. Vatani, we learned to the Brisa. Isha committed to bring a pair, a chatas v'oila, on account of a tumah. Meviyad meikan. Suppose she didn't get around to buying a bird. She brings money, the equivalent of a kan. She inserts it into the container. This was a service provided in the Beis Hamikdash. And rest assured, that night, she can have a karbonis. She has no concern. Perhaps the kohen was lazy and didn't actually carry out his mission, his job, and the money is perhaps still sitting in the container. No, we're not concerned. Why? Says the Korban Eidah on the top line here. Says the Korban Eidah, the chazaka al bezin shel kohanim she'einam oimdim misham at sheyichlu kol mois shalois shofar. We know the Kehanim, on top of things, they made sure that the day wasn't over until all monies were taken care of. So that these fellows who are not yet completely tar won't go ahead and engage in kachim prematurely. Therefore, they made sure all purchases were done, same day service, and therefore that night she can go and have kachim. That's number one. Number two, says the Brisa in the second line, the kohen should not be concerned. I'll say, well, what am I getting involved in? Problems. I'm going to bring all the karbanis here using this money. Perhaps there's some dmei chatos mesos merovas ben. Perhaps it's some money relating to a chatas hamesa, which was donated by an isha who passed away, and the carbon, or in this case, the money designated for a chatas is chatas hameses. It's meant to be dye, meaning if it's a carbon, you have it dye. If it's money, you meant to throw into Yam HaMelech. In any case, it's pasal v'akrova. Says the Gemara, don't worry about it. There's no such concern. We know there's a Mishnah in Gittin. A husband sends a get from far away. We're not concerned, perhaps he passed away in the interim. There's a cheskas chai, a person who was alive, we assume that status and situation continues until we verify otherwise. Same thing here. Unless we know with certainty that an Isha passes away, we assume between today and tonight nothing happened. the Kohen can go ahead and be makriv all those birds with confidence. And we don't find Rabbi Yehuda disagreeing. We don't find any concern on account of Rabbi Yehuda. So here he's not concerned that perhaps somebody passes away. If that's the case, why is he concerned now, Mishnah? He doesn't allow for donating chatas birds for concern that the owner might pass away. And over here he's not concerned. Says the Gemara, big difference. Kika amrinan bechatois shemesu balein vaday. You're right. When there's a suffix, when there's an uncertainty, yeah, everybody applies a chazaka. Let's assume everything's okay, everyone's safe and sound. The Rabbi Yehuda now Mishnah is concerned is speaking when we know there was a chatois shemesu balein vaday. The word went out today that Mrs. Planius passed away today. And she was a donor into this container. It was her money put in today. And she passed away. We know with certainty that one of the owners passed away. Now, says Rabbi Yehuda, you're running into trouble. So why get involved? Don't allow for it. Don't make an arrangement for chatois, for concern that perhaps it may happen that an isha will have been found to pass away today. And now you have money in there, which is chatas hamesis. Apparently the Rabban are not concerned, as we're going to see in a minute. But the one has another kasha. Vi amrinan. True. There's a concern. If you found that an isha died today, then some money in there is possible. Fine. But we have a solution to that. Nivr dalet zuzi. Finish the binara. Take 4 coins, the equivalent of the 2 birds, and just toss it into the river. V'idach lishter, and the rest is mutter. Choose some coins and designate it to that donor who passed away, and everything is okay. So should be this concerned. Marina says the Gemara be'alma, but haven't we said elsewhere? Rabbi Yehuda Kessler brera. He doesn't hold of brera. You can't go ahead and do something now and say, well, it's been determined retroactively that this is her money. You can't do it. You have no right to do that. Ain't brera. We don't apply the concept of later verification as a retroactive revelation. We don't do that according to Rabbi Yehuda. So in a case where we know with certainty that somebody passed away, we ran into trouble now. We have money in there which is possible. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda does not allow for this arrangement. But of course, if it should happen that an Isha did donate chatas money and we don't know that she passed away, then of course we apply chazaka. We assume that everything is status quo. Now apparently the Rabbanan who do allow for this arrangement, right? They maintain that one of the containers was designated for chatas and oila, right? The chatas and oila pair of birds. Why aren't they concerned about this? This isha dying, and then once that happens, then you're in trouble. So either they're not concerned about that eventuality, or they hold a brera. Even if it happens, at worst case, what can you do? Take 4 coins and say, this has been designated for that isha. This will be tossed into Yam HaMelech, and the rest is mutter. Now the Tvayas Akasha, brera. Brera means you have an unfinished procedure. The classic case of brera is by Erev. You place an Erev on one side of the city, an Erev Tchumen on the other side to allow it to go past your Tchum. And you condition it. You say, well, I don't know where the Chacham is going to be coming from. If he comes from this side, I want the Erev on this side of the city to be activated. If he comes on the other side, I want that one to be activated. So it's a pending, it's a procedure which had not yet been confirmed. It's mitla tali v'oimid, and it's conditioned upon a later development. That's called brera. The shita that says yesh brera holds, yeah, you can do that. Later on, you'll finish the procedure. You'll confirm it retroactively. But that's because it was an unfinished process. It was a pending Erev. Later on, you'll decide, well, this is the Erev I wanted yesterday. But here, it's a different story. You have money belonging to Rachel in this mix. Right? She was the one who put it in here. It's in this mix. Now she passes away. What right do you have to take 4 coins, 4 random coins, unidentified coins, and say, this is Rachel's? It's not like Erev, where it's an unfinished process of awaiting confirmation. Here it was her money. You can't just decide, well, this happens to be her money. This isn't necessarily hers. How do you know? So Tosfos actually brings a teretz. He says, really the kasha is, let's say you have something which is asr in a mix. You just take something else and say, well, that's the isser. You don't know where the isser is. You take anything and say, well, this is the isser. You have 10 pieces of bread. One of them was asr. Fell into the rest. You can just take any one and say, this is the isser. So why is this different? It says Tosfos. The difference is as follows. Here, when she donated, her money was mutter. So when the mix, the tarivus, was created, there was no isser element present whatsoever. Therefore, says Tosfos, you can choose any form and say, well, this has been designated as her thing. I'm not sure exactly what this for is, but he makes that distinction. As opposed to where you have something which is absolutely usr. You have a slice of bread which is usr, falling into the mix. It's been usr to begin with, before it fell in. Now the tarivus has now acquired a new status. A tarivus isser on account of that isser element contained therein. You have no right to undo that status by just pulling out any one. As opposed to the money case, where it was mutter when it fell in. So the tarivus was created beheter. In which case you just take a couple and say this is on account of her money, and the rest remains mutter. That's Tosfos teretz. Ritzvah disagrees, and he learns very pashut. He says there's no difference between falling in be'isr, falling in beheter. Rather, the pshat in the Gemara is like this: how can we allow this type of breira? He says we're not speaking after the fact. What the Gemara meant was like this: that initially speaking, they're going to post a notice on that container. Dear Isha, when you put your money in here, have in mind, you're putting it into the communal fund here, and you're allowing us to designate any coins for whomever we want. So it's preconditioned, built into the system initially. Now you can do it. That's the Ritzvah's pshat now. So this way, if she passes away, you can take any four and say, well, this is her money, and the rest is mutter. Apparently, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of even this type of breira, and therefore he says, don't make arrangements which will create confusion. Continues the Gemara, we discussed now, Mishnah, a person could donate eitzim. Going to put in some money in the eitzim container for the purpose of purchasing blocks of wood. So when he says harele eitzim, at a minimum he must donate 2 blocks of wood. What about if he says eitz, lashon yachid? Rabbi Yosef Beirei Bun Omar, he said, Rabba bar mamel boy. He asked as follows: Omar harelai eitz. What happens then? Maybe gizur echad. 1 block is enough. What's the chiddush? That each block of wood can be viewed independently. Although in the Beis HaMikdash, they used to bring 2 blocks of wood by Tamash ben Abai. But technically each one is a separate mitzvah, a separate carbon. This way, if a person decides to give one, he can give one. Omar b'lezer masnisa Omar came. We have a right to this effect from the following Mishnah and Yuma. To what? That shezeh carbon fnei atzmai, v'zeh carbon fnei atzmai. Each block of wood can be viewed independently as a separate carbon. From which Mishnah I'm going to prove it. Kehai de tanina taman, as we learned in the Mishnah and Yuma. The Mishnah describes the 11 kohanim who were involved in being makriv the tamid sheben abayim. So 9 kohanim would actually transport the limbs to the mizbeach. And the Mishnah continues, we have another 2 kohanim. Shnayim biyadam shnei gizrei eitzim. Each one had a block of wood. The next 4 lines the Vilna Gaon takes out. So this is the raya. What's the raya? Because unlike the carbon tamid, which was actually brought on the mizbeach by 1 kohen, meaning they were transported to the mizbeach by 9, but the actual placement on the fire was done by 1 kohen, because it's all one. It's 1 behemoth, 1 carbon. When it comes to the eitzim, the pasuk says, "V'orchu hakohanim eitzim lashon ram 2 kohanim." Each one had a block of wood and placed it on the mizbeach, placed it on the fire. Apparently, each one was a separate carbon, and therefore it allows for one to donate just 1 as his donation. Continues the Gemara. What would be the size of these blocks? Shimon Levi Amar, Oivion Amma, Ba'ama Sechekes, Va'arkan Ba'ama Geduma. We have a block of wood. So the length and the width had to be an amma, had to be a square. We're going to learn soon because it had to fit onto the makim marocha of the mizbeach, which is only an amma by amma. But the height, the thickness, could have been more. It could have been a amma sechekes. What does amma sechekes mean? We learned this in Erevin. There are different ways of measuring an amma. Amma consisted of, let's say, 6 tvachim, which is a fistful, but the fist width could have been measured loosely, generously, fingers lying loosely side by side. That's sechekes. Like one who's in a good mood, is smiling. So it's extending oneself. It's generous. So amma sechekes means a smiling amma, which the Rashba says actually equaled a half a etzba more, a total of half a etzba more than a small size amma, which is called an amma itzeves, a sad amma, a constricted amma, tightly fisted amma. So Shmuel Levi says when it comes to the width, the oirach, the rechav of this block of wood had to be an exact amma, a small size amma to fit on the mizbeach, but the height could have been a more generous amma. Reb Chuni, Hashem Reb Ami came in turtani. No, it had to be even on all sides, like a perfect square. Turtani is like a scale. It had to be perfectly scaled. Now, why do all agree that when it comes to the width and the length, it had to be exactly an amma and a small amma? Since the makom marocha and mizbeach was only one by one amma, that's why the block of wood couldn't be more than an amma geduma, than a small size amma. V'taniken, we actually learned likewise in the Brisa that the makom marocha, where the fire was merely an amma square. Now this Brisa will describe the mizbeach constructed by Moshe Rabbeinu the Midbar, which was a total of 5 ammas by 5 ammas, 5 ammas square. We know the Shlomo Melech's table was actually, the mizbeach was actually bigger. But here we're speaking about the 5 by 5 amma of Moshe Rabbeinu. But that was the perimeter. Then it gradually narrowed as it went up. Amma ha-yisoid, the bottom was the base, the yisoid, so we have an amma going in on either side. So now we're only left with a 4 by 4. Amma soiviv, the next one was the ramp. Amma karchev with the walking space on top. Amma kronis, the corners, and leaves you with only 1 by 1. Amma rocha for the placement of the wood, of the fire, of the karbanis. Now the Rambam, interesting, says that even l'doiris, later on, you can only donate this type of wood, this block of an amma and amma. And the Farshim will explain, apparently once it's been established as that being the proper size of a piece of wood, as in the midbar, that became the din, that's the halacha, the shir, even for future generations, despite the fact that the mizbeach was larger in size and can technically accommodate more. Levoina livchas mikaimes, Mishnah says, if one donates some coins to purchase levoina, at a minimum he has to provide for a kaimetz, a fistful of levoina. How do we know? Nemar kan azekara. The pasuk by levoina says that the levoina placed with the mincha will be askara l'Hashem, and remembrance for Hashem. Now, although we're speaking about levoina brought together with the mincha, the Taklin Chalatin points out that there's an extra word in the pasuk. It says, "V'es kol halevoina," all the levoina. So he says, "Hainu kol shem aktoris levoina af above ne'atzma." The pasuk is evidently adding and including also independently brought levoina, donated levoina, and the pasuk refers to it as azekara, a remembrance to Hashem. What exactly is that? What amount is needed to provide askara? So we use Gzeir Sham. Ne'emar kan askara. V'ne'emar lahal askara. Elsewhere by Lechem Apanim, we have the word askara. Ma askara umar lahal maloi kaimes. Just as by Lechem Apanim, we know aside from the bread there were 2 meziche levaina, 2 spoons of levaina, each one containing a kaimes of levaina. So just as askara there, which is a reference to the kaimes of levaina, is referring to a shir kaimetz, afaskara murkan, malay kaimetz. Likewise, askara over here by levaina separately is a reference to a shir kaimetz. At a minimum, you must donate that amount. If that's the case, connecting to lechem apanim, keep in mind, there's a double portion of levaina there. 2 spoons of levaina, 2 kaimetzin. Afaskara hamurakan shnei kaimetzin. Perhaps here as well, you have to have a double share of kaimetz. You can't just donate 1 kaimetz of levaina. Rabbi Yehuda Keep in mind that lechem apanim is not really the source, the root of this concept. Lechem Apanim itself derived from where? From Minchas Chote. The Mincha Dariyah. The Tzayir will bring when he's poor. And the Pasuk there speaks about the Kohen scooping out a kaimetz of the Minchas, of the Stylus. And the Pasuk refers to it as Askara. It is from there that we learn that Askara equals a kaimetz. And we learn from there to Lechem Apanim. Lechem Apanim has the word Askara. Evidently Askara is a kaimetz as well. And we bring that to here, to Levina. Since Askara, referring to the Levina of Lechem Apanim, is a kaimetz, the Askara, in reference to general Levina, is also a kaimetz. So it's a chain reaction. Source is Minchas Chote. We apply that to Lechem Apanim's Levina and to plain Levina. So what is your kasha? For coming from Lechem Apanim, a double dose Levina is required? No. Lechem Apanim in itself derives from Minchas Chote. And over there it was just a single kaimetz. Likewise here, if you donate Levina, a single kaimetz is enough. Once we learn from Minchas Chote, we're going to have two more halachas. Ma lahalan kaimetz hachaser pasel. Just as by Minchas Chote. If it's a missing kaimetz, if it's missing a bit, it's pasel. You can't have a half a kaimetz and then another 1.5 to make up for it. Kaimetz is a designated amount. It's a very specific amount. It needs to be all one unit. A unit of a kaimetz amount. Afkan kaimetz hachaser pasel. Likewise, when one donates Levina, if it's missing from this kaimetz amount, it's pasel. You can't say, well, I'll donate half a kaimetz and then another 1.5. Kaimetz is an absolute share. Another halacha we learn from there. Rabbi Yosef Milsa, the Rabbi Ila Amra. The words of Rabbi Ila, meaning the fact that we learn the concept that a levina has to be a kaimetz from Minchas Chote. Amra, that produces the following halacha as well. Hames nadav levina. If one donates for levina, we need a kaimetz. The question is, which kaimetz is used to measure levina? My kaimetz, the donor. It's a personal thing. We look at my hand size. I have a small hand. Just a little bit levina is enough. Or we look at the standard, the kohen's kaimetz, the average kohen or the largest kohen. Mevia b'kohen sushal kohen. Since we learn the halacha, the shear of kaimetz by levina from Minchas Chote, now the Minchas Chote was scooped by who? By the kohen. It was part of the avodah. Just as over there, it's measured using the hand of the kohen. Here as well, when it comes to the shear of kaimetz by a donation of levina, it needs to conform to that requirement, that shear. It's a standard shear. It's like a gzai, it's like a beitza. It's not personal. You can't use your small hand. Rabbi Chizkiah b'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah, he disagrees. Va'afilu b'kaimetz habal. You can even follow the small size kaimetz of the owner who's donating the levina. It's a personal donation, and therefore we follow his hand size. Continues the Gemara, Zav lo yifchais. We learned that if one donates for gold, at a minimum it has to have a shear of a dinar zav. Amar b'lazav u'shes ketzura, provided that he mentioned the coin. I'm giving gold coins. We don't know which gold coins. Dinar zav, darkainais, all kinds of gold coins. So at a minimum he has to give a dinar zav. Avalim leis ketzura. But if he didn't make mention of coins, of forms, of stamps, something which has a tzura, maybe I feel it's tzinura. Then you could bring even a small amount of gold, sufficient to form from it a tzinura, a little pipe, a little accessory used for the adjustments of the menorah wicks. So it has to have some sort of suitability, some sort of use. You can't just give it a nugget of gold. It has to be enough to create something useful, but you don't need a large amount, a dinar zav. Finally, we have the 6 remaining containers, shishal and adava. The question is, why so many? We have 4 pshat. Chizkiah amar keneged shisha bati avis. We know that each day of the week, another family served. So each week there was a different mishmar, but Sunday one family, Beisav, Monday another Beisav, etc. We need a separate container for each family. Why? Because in those containers were contained the donations. Let's assume we're speaking about the leftover monies of karbanis. You take that money, you purchase oilois for Ketam Mizbeach, the oil is burnt, the oilois, the hides, are given to the Kehanim. And as the Gemara Menachah says, this can create machlokes. Suppose Sunday was a busy day in the Beis HaMikdash. Everybody brought their karbanis, and the Mizbeach wasn't idle, in which case they didn't have to use any of this leftover money here for the oilois Ketam Mizbeach. Mizbeach was busy. Come Monday, it's a quiet day in the Beis Hamikdash. The next family, which serves tomorrow, will say, well, let's keep the Mizbeach busy. Let's take out money from this fund, bring the oil on the Mizbeach, and keep the hides. The Sunday family is going to turn to them and say, well, what's going on? You're taking all this money for yourself. We didn't make any use of this fund. And the truth is, the Mizbeach was busy. And they had Nedarim, Nedavis, all kinds of Karbanis brought, and they also had something from that. Because if a person brought oil, they got the hide. But they'll say, well, that's our mazel, it's our luck. We didn't actually make use of this public fund. And what right do you have to use so much money from this fund that we didn't have any benefit from? To avoid any machlekes, we made a separate container, one for Sunday, one for Monday, one for Tuesday. This way, the donor can decide into which one he wants to put his money. And how the kasha is, in either case, the money going to the Sunday container will not be used any longer this week. Right? Even if it's a Sunday container, it's going to be used next week Sunday. In which case, these people won't be around anymore. So what gain do they have? Apparently, the point is, we don't want you to have it. We won't have it, but we don't want you to have it. Therefore, to avoid any machlekes, they made a separate container, one per day. That's why they need 6. But Padya Amar, you have a different shot. Keneged sheish behemoths. There are different types of animals and different donation levels. The Mishnah Menachah says a person donates for a par, he has to bring a certain amount of money. So each type of animal requires a different donation amount. So we need 6 containers. One per animal type. If a person wants to donate to buy that animal for the Beis Hamikdash, he can put his money in each respective container. Keneged sheish behemoths par, that was for the cow or for the bull, the egel a calf, the sor for an older goat, ayel for a ram, gdi for a young goat, utle a sheep. So that's what we have to have 6. Shmuel Amar has a different approach. Keneged shisha karbonis. He learns that the nedava containers were meant for leftover monies. If a person bought a chatas, has leftover money, he puts it in there. So we have 6 different categories in this context. We have leftover monies from the kinizavim and kinizavis, from those birds. We have leftover monies from the kini yoldes, the ish who gave birth, who brought a pair of birds, leftover money from that. We have leftovers from the chatois, from the hashamois, from the hamanochos. Vasiris Eifa, this was the Kohen Gadol's mincha. So each one had a separate kedusha, a different type of kedusha, and therefore had its own sheif. Rabbi Yehuda had a different pshat. Or Rabbi Yehuda, Alidesha, Nadav Meruba, since there was so much donation going on there, Ribula Shefaris Harbe, they had so many shafaris. We're concerned if there's only one container, the money will pile up, and the bottom layer will get tarnished and rusty, because you keep on adding more on top and removing from the top, and the bottom layer just sits there. Therefore, they distributed it. They had 6 shefaris. This way, it gets aired out, and they can rotate to avoid the spoilage of the coins. So these are 4 pshatim to explain the 6 containers on the dam. Continues the Gemara. Now, lots of gerses in the Gemara. According to the Vilna Gaon, the Gemara is asking the following kasha. One pasuk indicates that Yehuda Kohen Gadol, with the king, placed a container, a pushka, for donations. So one pasuk describes the container being placed at the entranceway to the Beis Hamikdash, and was meant to be used to purchase klei sharis. We have another pasuk, which seems to say that the container was placed near the Mizbeach, and the content designated for Bedek HaBayis. So we have a stira. Was it placed by the Mizbeach or by the entranceway? Number 2, was the money used for klei sharis or Bedek HaBayis? The Gemara will answer this stira. Reb Shimon Bar Nachman Shem Yenis Amar, Shtei Nedavas Asa. He placed 2 containers. One was here, one was there. Tanit Rabbi Shimon Davar Achas was actually one container. T'chsev Vayomer Melech Vayasu Aron Echad, one aron, one container. Vayitnei Bechaves Hashem Vayakav Chayr B'Dalsei. So this was Beichal Hashem made the Mizbeach. What about the other pasuk, which says that it was placed outside? Vayomer Melech Vayasu Aron Echad Vayitnei B'Shar Beis Hashem Chutza outside. Rav Chuna B'Pnei Atmeim. Initially it was placed inside, but the king was concerned. He wanted to accommodate the Tmeim, that they could donate as well. So he placed it outside Beis Hamikdash. So it began inside, then it was placed outside. So that answers the steer regarding location. Rabbi Chuna B'Shem Rabbi Yosef is coming to answer the steer regarding the use. What was it used for? Klei sharis or Bedek HaBayis? We have a stira. He answers like this: Ach lo ye'asa beis Hashem. Sipos kesem asmeres. You're not meant to make use the money for sipos kesef, for klisharis, meant to be used for bedek habayis, which tells you like this: priority is given to bedek habayis, but perhaps once you accommodated bedek habayis, you have extra money, you can direct the extra funds for klisharis. So that's shot in the pasuk. Initially, it was designated for bedek habayis, and the leftover was used for klisharis. Hadron Aloch Perik Yud Gimel Sheifaris. Okay, let's make a quick review. We discussed the 10 shulchanos and 10 menorahs built by Shlomo HaMelech. We discussed the 13 sheifaris and their respective purposes. We discussed the concern of Rabbi Yehuda regarding Chatos HaMeisid. The Rabbanan were not concerned because of Breira. We discussed the block of wood brought in the Mizbeach. We discussed the Levoina, which was a komet at a minimum, and the reason why they needed 6 sheifaris l'nedava. Kol tov and atzlacha rabba.